Hello everybody, welcome back to Nuremberg, welcome back to the Norisring for the second free practice session of the day. DTM 2025, we're approaching the halfway point of the season. We're getting ready for races 7 and 8 of this championship, which will be coming this weekend. But today, 2 free practice sessions in the glorious sunshine here at the Norisring. Welcome along, everybody. We're about 4 minutes away from seeing some cars on track, and we are really looking forward to this on this absolutely unique circuit. There's nothing quite like it. The absolute highlight, in my opinion, of the DTM calendar here around the streets of Nuremberg, a circuit that is just 2.1 kilometers around. And coming into this weekend, Lucas Auer has a healthy 16-point lead over René Rast, but Ian Chen-Gun and Jules Gounon very much in contention as well. So Rast 16 points adrift, 18 points adrift for Gun and Jules Gounon. Mauro Engel, you can never discount him. Local man Marco Wittmann is 6th. He's 21 points back ahead of Jack Aitken, who was very much a star here last year and a star this morning. Jordan Pepper, he's 8th in the points and he's looking for his first ever win in the DTM. He's a man on a roll at the moment because last week, along with Mirko Bortolotti, Luca Engstler, in the GRT Grasser car, they won the Spa 24-hour race. And what an emotional occasion that was. And talking to Jordan Pepper earlier on today, he said, well, the next thing I need is a win in the DTM. That can't be too far away, can it? And this morning, it looked like he was going to come out of free practice 1 with the fastest time of the entire session. Max Powell had something to say about that in the absolute last few seconds of free practice. Jordan Pepper had been at the top of the timesheets, but Max Powell stealing the fastest lap of the day in the Powell Motorsport Lamborghini in the last few seconds of the session. It was a 49.468, and it always feels a little bit strange saying a time without a 1 at the beginning, but yes, that is how short this circuit is, a 49-second lap. And in fact, tomorrow, when qualifying starts, we're expecting to see times somewhere in the region of about 48.5 seconds. As already mentioned, it is a circuit that is 2.162 kilometers around. That equates to about 1.3 miles. It has just 5 turns, 4 to the left and 1 to the right. Essentially, it's a couple of hairpins joined by a couple of straights. It is as close to an oval as you're ever going to get in DTM racing. It is something very unique. And of course, the barriers butt up really close to the circuit. There is no room for error. And it is a circuit that has claimed many a car, many a wing mirror over the years. And in this free practice session, we've already seen, well, certainly in the last free practice session, we've seen drivers working out how close they can get to the wall, trying to extract as much as they can out of this circuit because it is incredibly tight. There were just fractions of a second separating the cars, 1.1 seconds between the fastest and the slowest in free practice this morning. And in fact, the top 22 cars separated by 0.7 of a second. So it is absolutely critical to get the setup, to get the balance, to get everything right here, to have the right tyres at the right time. And this is the last free practice session because we've got 45 minutes of this session. And then the next time these cars are on track, it will be for qualifying tomorrow morning. And with a track that is so small, qualifying is going to be a little bit different. There's someone who's got the right idea, haven't they? In the glorious sunshine here in Nuremberg, enjoying this lovely weather. The crowds are starting to pour in onto the terraces. But for quali tomorrow, the cars are going to split into 2 groups. So we're going to have the times from free practice this morning, the times from this session as well. They will be combined. Then the odd number finishers, i.e. drivers 1st, 3rd, 5th, etc., will go into group 1. The even numbered finishers in the times will go into group 2, and they will qualify separately tomorrow morning. One group determining the inside row of the grid, the other determining the outside row of the grid. And those groups will then be reversed. So Group 2 will go first on Sunday morning for their qualifying session. It means the drivers will have plenty of time and plenty of space out on track to get a good qualifying position. but we're going to have all cars out here in this free practice session, FP2, as we get ready for races 7 and 8, round 4 of the season for DTM 2025. We are at the Norisring. Chris Hartley is currently at the Lando Norisring at Silverstone this weekend. Oh dear, it's all kicked off already. It means that alongside me, as was the case this morning, I can't believe they've let us both back on air again together, welcoming back a voice to DTM that many fans will be familiar with from many years ago. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Dave Richardson.
It wasn't that many years ago, was it? Not decrepit. Hello.
Well.
As he has said in his talk about use an acre when all you need is a centimetre away. Welcome to the Norisring. Here we go then, DTM FP2. All the cars out on the track. Now, pre-practice 1 was really, really exciting this morning because, as Brian told us, we only got the fastest time within the last few milliseconds of the session. Are we expecting the same in this part as we ride on board with a local driver from Fort, literally just down the road, Marco Wittmann, who of course will have the support of thousands of Marco Wittmann fans across the course of the weekend. I have to say, he didn't finish FP1 quite where I expected him to be. Will he right the wrongs of FP1 and put it all together in FP2? Well, we're going to find out very, very soon. The early runners are Thomas Preining, Jules Gounon, Ricardo Feller. They are the top 3. Jordan Pepper, P4 at the moment as the first laps come in. The times are absolutely academic because the drivers are literally just on install laps, really getting everything together before really pushing towards the end of the session. Brian, you made the point that this session just a little bit shorter than the session this morning. Therefore, we're expecting it to be pretty busy for the remaining 42.5 minutes, as Marco Wittmann indicates, right? Dives into the pit lane, which I believe from your educational supplement earlier on today has got a slightly slower pit lane speed than normal.
Indeed. Yes, thank you for that wonderful intro to my educational supplement, Appendix 3B. Yes, the pit lane speed limit, normally 50 kilometers an hour, down to 40 kilometers an hour. I mean, that's going to feel glacial when you've been out on the racetrack. And it's been really good that the ADAC, DTM, have been thinking about this long and hard, and they not just doing it for the sake of safety. We did actually see some incidents in the pit lane at Zandvoort, so that was an issue anyway in terms of safety. We saw Luca Engstler clipping René Rast's wheel, which then in turn barreled into a mechanic. Nobody was seriously hurt. We also saw Maurice Schuring coming together with Thierry Vermeulen in the pit lane. We saw Jules Gounon tripping over Gilles Magnus. So certainly pit lane safety has been high on the agenda, but this is not just for that. The reduction of the speed limit is also for greater fairness and to simplify racing procedures. They've done a lot of simulations on this, and the idea is if a driver comes into the pits, they should, in theory, exit back out onto the track somewhere likely to be in the position where they came in, but a lap down. So they will be competing with the same people that they were competing with prior to coming into the pits. It's an interesting idea, and it's one that means that drivers are not getting hot under the collar because they're fighting midfield drivers when in fact they're chasing the leading group. Be interesting to see how that shakes out. Really good stuff, but it means a 40-kilometer-an-hour speed limit in the pit lane. And on Sunday, that's going to be double fun because, of course, new for 2025, we have 2 pit stops on a Sunday. Race 2 has 2 mandatory pit stops, whereas Saturday's race only has 1. This morning, as already mentioned, the quickest driver was Max Powell, a 49.468. Last year, the quickest lap of the weekend was in qualifying for race 2. Nicky Tim, a 48.758. And if the weather conditions stay as they are, and they're certainly forecast to, expecting to see times maybe dipping below that. And Ben Green already into the 49. So in the Emil Frey Racing Ferrari, Ben Green, who could do with a little bit of good luck, actually, a really talented driver, has had the odds stacked against him a few times this year. Tom Thomas Breining, they're already setting purples in sector 1 and 2, but as already mentioned, these times may be a bit academic at the moment because they're going to come tumbling down as more rubber is laid on the track as the temperature increases in this afternoon sunshine. But plenty to play for here. 40 minutes of free practice 2 racing. Just to say one other thing, the quickest time here, the lap record is currently held by one Mr. Liam Lawson. That was set back in 2021. We were not even going to mention that weekend to Liam. 48.622 is the quickest time. Maybe this weekend we could get close to that.
All the conditions are absolutely right for that to so do. We ride on board with Thomas Breining, who is P2 at the moment. He was P1 just a few moments ago. As you can see, he's taken a tenth and a half out of the Jordan Pepper time. It's Jordan Pepper right at the top of the chart at the moment, but here comes Thomas Breining then, shortcutting the run to the timing line as Thomas Breining crosses that. He breaks the beam and he goes P1 with a 49.4.
So that is the quickest time of the weekend so far for Thomas Breining, 49.4. So we've already eclipsed Max Powell's 49.468 that was set this morning. I'm not going to bore you with balance of performance because I made a right dog's dinner of that in FP1. One thing I would say is that for this weekend, the ADAC and DTM are not specifying a minimum rear wing angle for the cars, and that may affect the BMWs, who are often faster on the straights, and it's also suggested it could advantage the Ford Mustangs.
Okay, I have to say, generally speaking, and you and I are across a lot of motor racing, I think the ADAC do a brilliant job in terms of this balance of performance. When you look at the different manufacturers, the different cars, the different specifications of the cars, remind me, free practice 1 this morning, what was there? Barely tenths between P1 and P last.
P last was 1.1 seconds.
Right, 1.1 seconds. When you can get it that close and that correct, in my opinion, and it is only my opinion, you haven't got it all wrong, have you?
No, absolutely. I mean, every driver will complain that the BOP is against them, but hey, that's what drivers are programmed to do. But interesting to see whether the wing angle issue will affect the straight line speed of the BMW this weekend. I don't have a technical understanding of these things, but it is suggested, as I already said, the Ford Mustangs might actually gain a bit of an advantage from that. Time will tell. Certainly this morning, the weapon of choice appears to have been a Lamborghini, with Lamborghini first and second in the shape of Max Powell and Jordan Pepper. And it's Jordan Pepper who's at the top at the moment with a purple in sector 1.
Well done, Jordan Pepper, going even quicker now. But yeah, the point you were making, and let's be honest, Arjun Maini was not a slug this morning, was he? No. So perhaps there is something in what you are saying. Just taking a look at where we are right now. Here comes Marco Wittmann. Yeah. Who I think, dare I say it, for the local driver, supported by his legions of fans as he will be this weekend, I would have thought he would have probably come out of this morning's qualifying session feeling just a little underwhelmed, if I'm honest.
Yeah, and I mean, we don't know what programs they're running at Schubert Motorsport, and it might be they're scrubbing tyres, but I do think that he was down in 22nd place. That's probably not what he had in mind as we look at Jack Aitken, always looking like he's having a nice casual Friday afternoon drive in the Ferrari 296, loving his time in the DTM.
Kind of nodding his head as if he was listening to the latest Nana Muscuri album, wasn't he? Yeah.
Yes, Jack Aitken was very much in the headlines here last year. Didn't have the result that they did hope for last year. Certainly not the potential that he showed, because he started on pole position in race 1. And of course, the heavens opened last year in that first race of the weekend. He eventually came home in 9th place and an 18th place in race 2. So he's looking for better than that. He's been nudging the top of the timing sheets in free practice 1 all the way through. He's looking good here at the moment, although Jordan Pepper, he looks like a man who's really got his tail in the air, actually, because he was out for pretty well the whole of FP1. He just kept chucking in the laps. He kept it at the top. He's staying at the top here with a purple in sector 2 of 49.223. So I think it's not going to be too long before we start looking at the 48s as we look down at turn 1.
Yes, that was not his best lap that we've just seen, but as you say, 49.223, he has delivered, and that is the one that currently keeps him P1. But We've still got just under 35 minutes of this free practice session to run, so still plenty that can be done as we go back on board with the Emil Fry Racing driver. Jack Aitken then on board. Love these onboard shots. This is the splitter cam. This is the camera that is literally gaffer taped to the split. Well, it's fitted much more robustly than that, but it is right on the bottom of the car, so you get a real sense of the speed. The speed that these drivers are able to manipulate their machines into delivering around this really short, sharp circuit is a thing to be utterly admired. I love this place, and the DTM here is, in my opinion, the DTM at its best.
Yes, and it attracts a massive number of fans. We're expecting well over 100,000 fans here this weekend, lining the concrete steps that particularly along the pit straight. Although, having said that, there's a section that's been restored in the middle. Apparently it's going to be closed off for the next 3 years, but the ADAC have provided additional seating around the circuit. Plenty of room still, so if you haven't got your tickets and you're in the Nuremberg area, do get down here to witness this spectacle of racing this weekend. Out along the pit straight, there's the man who has been making many of the headlines. Well, two of them, Lucas Au, Anchan Nguyen, both of them are multiple winners this year. The only drivers to have won 2 races, both of them. Nicky Tim, quickest in Sector 1. He was on a high after Zandvoort, and of course he won here last year. Out along the pit straight, they're reaching speeds of 250 kilometers an hour around this tiddly circuit. It takes a lot of bravery. It takes some very big whatnots to be able to go 250 kilometers an hour into that turn 1, where you go down to first gear, heavy braking into that corner. This is turn 4 we're looking at, out towards Dutzendijk, the big lake on the right-hand side.
It was Gene Chandler that said get down, and now Brian Oliver has done it as well. Get down here if you're in the area, because you will not be disappointed with the race action this weekend. You're absolutely right. It's Jordan Pepper from Nicky Team and Jack Aitken now being relegated to P3.
Loud and clear. I guess in the next 4 or 5 minutes we can go.
So Arjun Miney,
he's being held, isn't he?
Yes, well, yes.
Well, not literally,
waiting for his moment. He was in 6th place this morning, just a 0.082 off the fastest time. So the Mustang certainly got some speed here. HRT getting to grips with that. Do you know, I never realised until this year that the Mustang has its clutch on the steering wheel, which is really something I had never realised, and it's a whole new discipline for the likes of Arjun Miney. Of course, we've associated him with Mercedes AMG for many years, but now behind the wheel of the Mustang, he looks like a man who is loving life behind the wheel of that car.
Do you know, I first met Arjun in junior single-seaters, and he's such a likeable individual who is so clearly talented. And yeah, whatever he drives, you just know that Arjun Miney, he does so with a huge smile on his face.
Yeah.
So many racing drivers sometimes, I believe, forget to enjoy what they're doing. It's not a bad life, is it? Let's be truthful.
Nicky Tim to the top of the screens, 49.143. The 48s are getting closer. But yes, Arjun Miney, I've said this once before, I say it again, he's the coolest guy I know. We had the end of season party last year. Halfway through the evening, he walks in a white suit with a high neck jumper and just starts busting moves on the dance floor, and everybody watches in awe. He is the coolest guy, the next James Bond, I reckon. Nicky Tim is the quickest man at the moment. It's the Lamborghini once again. So Nicky Tim, whose father won here around the streets of Nuremberg many years ago. He emulated that, set the records books alight, if you could do such a thing, last year by taking that historic win, and now the Viking fancies making it 2 years running. He's at the top of the timing screens at the moment. Car number 2 of 49.143.
The name's Bond. Arjun Bond.
Arjun.
It's got a certain ring to it, hasn't it?
Yes.
Nicky Team then, Jack Aitken, middle sector was a purple sector. That's not enough to propel him further up the order than P5 at the moment. Luca Engstler has gone 3rd fastest, Brian, in this DTM free practice 2, of which we have, counting down right now, exactly 30 minutes on track remaining as of now.
We have 3 Lamborghinis, and at the top of the timing screens, Nicky Tim, Jordan Pepper, Luca Engster, Lamborghini, Lamborghini, Lamborghini. Wondering whether there might be some changes overnight. Oh, don't even think about it. The highest non-Lamborghini is Tom Callender, who's up in 4th place. So good stuff from Tom Callender, of course, the outgoing GT Masters champion. He won it along with his co-driver Elias Seppänen, and great on the road to DTM. Tom Callender stepping up to the big league. He's had a mixed season so far. His best results have been a couple of 15th places, but certainly a 4th place in FP2 at the moment. He'll be happy with that. Jack Aitken is in 5th place ahead of Ian Changun, who is always there or thereabout, and his teammate Thomas Briding. Mirko Bortolotti in the sister car to the fastest one, and the defending champion in DTM has jumped up into 6th place at 49.387. We're about 1.5 tenths away from getting into the 48s.
Here's Luca Engster then busting the timing line, but he's very nearly 7 tenths down on where he needs to be if he wants to threaten the Nicky Team time. Nicky Team, Jordan Pepper, Luca Engster, then it is Callender, and then it's Aitken and Bortolotti. That's the way the top 6 look at the moment. We will continue to run the clock on Luca Engster, or we did momentarily. Let's go back on board with Nicky Team right now, of course, driving for AB Sportsline. Nicky Team, certainly one of the more entertaining drivers and characters, I have to say, in the really rather blessed DTM paddock. So here he is then, straight lining towards the timing beam, and this is not going to be an improvement on his previous, and the best time previously was a 49.143. Eased off, bailed the lap right now, just made some adjustments to his shoulder straps, as you can see, as everyone else continues to make adjustments to their steering inputs to max what they can get out of these cars around this phenomenal circuit. It's short, but it's sweet as we watch Moritz Schöring here.
So Moritz Schöring this morning was in 20th place at 49.911, 49.391. So he's up on this morning. He's up into 7th place. A mega talented driver, of course. Winner in the GT category at the Le Mans 24-hour race last year. Very much on the ascendancy. His younger brother Flint currently racing in Porsche 6 Carrera Cup journey, following in the footsteps of his older brother. They're very rapid in that family, as we now ride on board with Mauro Engel. Look how close to the barriers they get. Talking to a lot of drivers this morning and in the lead up to this weekend, this circuit is very bumpy. A lot of drivers not taking a conventional racing line in certain sections of this track to avoid the bumps. Of course, these are public roads for the rest of the year. It's pretty bumpy. There are drain covers, there are lines, there are cracks in the track as well. So finding the route that creates the least disruption and allows for the maximum grip to be used. This is where the drivers are exploring different parts of the circuit during these free practice sessions.
You're absolutely right. It is unconventional in so many regards, but that's what makes it such a fascination for us as race fans. And so we watch Riccardo Fella right now. Riccardo Fella way down the order, Brian, at the moment P15 in this. Appreciate it's only a free practice session. I say it's only. We don't know what strategies the teams have got. We don't know what they're doing, what they're using this FP2 session for, but more than ordinarily, there is some consequence to what the drivers are able to achieve in free practice 1 and now free practice 2. Please explain.
Yes, because the times will be combined from free practice 1 and free practice 2 to create those groups for qualifying tomorrow morning. The odd numbers going into group 1, the even numbers into group 2. Cars will be split. It'll be much cooler tomorrow morning, obviously, when qualifying takes place a lot earlier tomorrow morning. So the track will be quite different to this, but in 2 groups, it means the drivers will have the space to be able to stretch their legs and try and get a clean lap in. While all that's been going on, we see that Arjamini, he was briefly up into P3, but Thomas Briding has now jumped up into that P3, relegating Arjamini down to 4th. It's still Nicky Team that we're aiming for, 49.143. If they're anything like Jordan Pepper was this morning, just staying out out and putting the laps in. But having said that, Nicky Tim and Jordan Pepper now back into the pits. Thomas Briding still out on track at the moment, and we're riding with him, the champion from 2023, always there or thereabout. This year, a little bit further back in the Championship Challenge he'd like, so he's in 9th place at the moment, but he's only 34 points back from Lucas Auer, who has 91 points. Of course, in quali tomorrow and on Sunday, there are points to be scored as well, not just in the race. So the drivers still looking for that setup, and a bit of traffic there for Thomas Briding as well. Local man Marco Wittmann just in front of him. There's Jordan Pepper just behind.
You mentioned the points leader, Lucas Auer. Well, you can see from the graphics on the left-hand side of your screen, he's been out, he's done a lap, he's P23 and he's back in the pit lane again. Should I read anything into that, do you think?
Well, I mean, if you've got a setup and you know what you're doing, then maybe it's save the tyres, save the car, save risking damaging it, or it could be that there is an issue. But certainly Lucas Auer, he's done 17 laps. So not a lot less than many of the others. The driver that's done the most laps is Timo Glock, who has done 23 laps out on track. Yeah, I think he's probably, it doesn't look like there's any great dramas at the moment. We've got about half the field in the pits at the moment. A lot of it is just gathering data, scrubbing tyres, getting that set up. This is the time to find out where the limits are, to find out where the grip is, because tomorrow morning when we get into that qualifying session, the clock ticks down very quickly. Looking down at Ricardo Feller in Eileen, the wonderful Audi that was brought out of a museum this year, put back on the track. Of course, Ricardo Feller, we were expecting to see in another brand of car. That deal fell through at the very last minute, just coming into the season, as Ben Green goes very wide there, just giving space to Marco Wittmann, allowing him to get clear, maybe finding a bit of space himself. But Ricardo Feller, the deal that he was going to have fell through. Land Motorsport stepped up to the mark. They pulled the Audi out of the museum, and he then brought that out and is racing that this year. And as has just been pointed out to me, while I've been waffling away, Arjun Maini jumps to the top, and that's the first time I think we've seen a Mustang at the top of the timing sheets in any sessions. The Mustang is here, a 49.133 for Arjun Maini as he goes to the top.
And Mustang Maini has got 2 purple sectors. He's going for an improvement on this lap. A 49.133 becomes a 49.110. Getting closer and closer still to that sub-49 time that we might see before the end of pre-practice 2, of which, what have we got left?
22.
22 minutes exactly. What a showing from Arjun Maini in this FP2 session, Brian.
So if he can carry some of that through to qualifying tomorrow, he'll be delighted about that. Thomas Briding, who is very much focused ahead after what was a fairly distressing Nürburgring 24-hour race in the end. Absolutely dominated the race in the Grello car, but was unable to take the top step of the podium, eventually coming home in 2nd place along with Ian Chenguyen and Kevin Estra. But very much focusing ahead now and focusing on the top of the timesheets. 49.096. He's always gone well round here, has Thomas Briding. Certainly making his intentions known by going to the top.
1.5 100ths quicker than Arjun Maini. So it's very, very close right at the top between Thomas Briding and Arjun Maini and Nicky Team and Jordan Pepper as we continue with our FP session then for the next 21 minutes or so through the Scholler-Esses. Love the well, it is a chicane, and then on the exit, as you can see, the surface changes from tarmac to concrete, depending on how close you want to go to the concrete by dint of the wall that sits there. And a point that you mentioned earlier on, and something of a hot potato topic when it comes to motor racing, is often track limits. No such problems here at the Norisring, because the track limits are delineated by really rather unforgiving concrete walls.
Yes, I think they're self-regulating. I think we call those, don't we? Sven Stopper, the race director, the person in charge of the stewarding, is certainly taking a stronger stance on driving standards. At Zandvoort, he gave additional warnings, 16 warnings to drivers. And there were 7 at Oschersleben, 3 at the Lausitzrings, but 9 drivers now have 2 warnings. If you get 3 warnings, you get a 5-place grid drop. So 9 drivers are on the edge of a grid drop. That is Sven Stopper taking a stronger stance. Now, whether that is in response to what Timo Glock has been complaining about, and that is some very poor driving standards, which is he believes have been, certainly in the opening races of DTM. But certainly at the moment, we are going to see, I have no doubt at all, in the very near future, we're going to see grids that are going to be adjusted with drivers getting 5-place grid drops. Talking of times, the Aston Martin is looking good. In 5th place, great from Gilles Magnus, 49.241, just a little under 2/10 off the fastest time of Thomas Preining. Nicola Bart currently in 24th, but he is only 7/10 off the fastest time. We have 7/10 of a second separating the fastest and the slowest at the moment.
And it's just 3/10 across the top 10. It's extraordinarily close, isn't it? As we ride on board with Thomas Preining with forgettable sector 1, 2 and 3, but he will go again and put another lap in the book, and he's full chat flat now, down through the gearbox, brakes hard, rotates the car, just glances the wall, and then again through every gear he possibly can, carrying as much speed into the Scholler S's, as tight as you can on the in and on the out, then bounce the car across those concrete paved sections. Loving this onboard lap from the Manthey driver Thomas Preining then. But again, his sector times are not where he would like them to be, although 49.044 that he's posted previously, enough to put him P1. This is not going to be an improvement, I don't think, from Thomas Preining. No, 49.267. However, a 49.044 has put him so close to breaking that 49 barrier and getting into the 48s.
Close to the wall. Now that is perfection. How close?
Absolutely millimetrically perfect.
What a brilliant driving, what brilliant positioning. So into the Scholler S once again. It's a 4th gear down to 2nd gear, taking about 115 kilometers an hour on the exit of turn 3, and then it's flat out along the Zeppelinstrasse in towards turn 4, getting up to about 225 kilometers an hour into this corner, and then it's right down into 1st gear around that corner before getting on the power. Turn 5 taken flat out along the straight in towards turn 1, and in towards turn 1, reaching, as already mentioned, getting on for 250 kilometers an hour in 6th gear. So a phenomenal speed on such a short circuit. The 2 Manthey EMA cars in the same shot there. Ian Chen-Nguyen in the green car, and in the Grello car, the legendary livery, it's Thomas Preining, the quickest man on the track at the moment.
It's Preining from Miney, from Team, from Pepper. They are the top 4 at the moment, and we have just under 17 minutes of this pre-practice 2 session remaining, and it busies up again. We've got roughly half the number of cars out on track, and the other half parked up in the pit lane. Will we see them again before the end of the session? You bet your bottom dollar.
There's a couple more coming in now. And they're not just sitting in the pits, having a drink, taking their time. It's analysing data. It's thinking about how can they extract every last thousandth, because we've seen already every thousandth counts here in the timing.
I'm glad you told me that. I thought they were doing their emails, but no, they're not doing that. They're checking data, of course. They look at every single...
Yep.
And it's the relationship between driver and engineer as well, isn't it? Right, you are losing a 100th here. We can better that if you do this. And, you know, there's all sorts of discussions that go on, and the data that's analysed, and also the pictures that are analysed as well, Brian.
Yes, and looking at every angle, every possibilities. We look at the Abt pit, and there is Nicky Team getting reversed into there, but he's looking like a man on a mission this weekend already as well. On board with Mauro Engel in one of just a couple of Mercedes AMG cars this year in the DTM, but a legendary driver himself. Mauro Engel currently fourth, make that in the point standings. He's only 19 13 points off the championship lead of Lucas Auer, so very much in contention, always is. Another driver who knows how close to the wall he can get. Here he comes. Just behind him is Ian Nguyen, who is going to be taken past in a rookie test in Formula E next weekend in Berlin. So some fairly diverse driving standards there, I should think, but a totally different discipline, racing a Formula E around Berlin. But at the moment, his focus is on GT3, and here comes Mauro Engel. Lights flashing, currently in 13th place. 49.405 is the time. There's nobody who's improving at the moment. You can see from your graphic, we've got quite a few cars still in the pits at the moment, but we are 14.5 minutes away from what is effectively, next time on track, qualifying one of this weekend. So this is the last chance to get that set up, to scrub those tyres, to find out where the limits are, to find out where you're losing time. And I expect drivers and teams currently looking at data in the garage. Mauro Engel just seeing how close to the wall he can get. We haven't actually seen any wing mirrors detached yet, but the night is young.
Just taking a look at the order, Brian, and I know we've still got 14 minutes to go, but there are a number of drivers who are perhaps not in the positions that I would expect to see them at this stage in FP2, including the likes of Rene Rast, Maxi Paul, perhaps, maybe even Ricardo Feller and Luca Engstler. They're not as high up the order as I would have thought they would be, based upon what we saw earlier on today.
Yes, another one, Jules Gounon, down in 17th place as well. But again, I guess we don't know what program they are running. We've seen it in the past where a driver has just been nowhere in free practice and they come out and stick it on the front row. As we've already mentioned, the times do have some significance, but it ultimately won't make a lot of difference. It's just whether they're going to finish in an even number position or an odd number position, which will determine which group they go into for qualifying tomorrow morning. It's a different dynamic here. Everything's different here at this weekend. It is the 82nd International ADAC and Norris Speed Weekend. The Motorsport Club of Nuremberg, the NCN, do a phenomenal job. I already mentioned it this morning. The 600 volunteers who put in around 10,000 hours over 2 weeks setting this circuit up. And then they have another week to take it all apart again. So a lot of work goes into this, but it's always worthwhile. It's always great racing here at the Norisring. And there's always a bit of a traffic jam. Certainly that was the case around turn 4, the Dutzen Dike curve. As we look down the pit straight, there's Rene Rast into turn 1. He and Thomas Breining had a fairly famous battle a couple of years ago going into that corner. That's a video that gets replayed regularly. But Rene Rast, of course, a winner here last year, looking to replicate that as he continues his attack on the championship.
Jordan Pepper has turned the wick up. Fastest personally through Sector 1. We'll keep an eye on his times. He's currently sitting P4 in this free practice 2 session, and he's gone with a personal best in Sector 2 as well. So this could be a good lap from Jordan Pepper, driver of that very number 63 car that our flip-flop camera followed then as he crossed the wall, and now breaks the timing beam, and Jordan Pepper improves 1 place and goes to P3, Brian.
I'll tell you what, you can see as they come out of turn 5 how bumpy the circuit is.
Yes,
you can see the cars bouncing around. 2 years ago, Prototype Cup Germany here, as we listen to team radio.
The crucial thing for qualifying is track position, not being with the idiots, but being in the shit.
That was a technical term. Thomas Breining just thinking ahead towards qualifying. Yeah, a couple of years ago, the Prototype Cup Germany, we saw a car. Of course, prototypes very much deal with ground effect, but we saw a car coming out of that final corner and hitting a bump and going headfirst into the barrier. It was a colossal impact, and you see how bumpy the circuit is and how easy it is for the car to get away from a driver. And you look here, you see that Jordan Pepper, you see the car bouncing around. The drivers, as I've mentioned already, as Pepper goes to the top once again, a 48.941. First driver into the 48s, but taking different lines out of turns 4 and 5 to try and avoid the bumps. Well, whatever Jordan Pepper is doing, he was doing it in FP1, he's doing it again, so he's to the top. First into the 48s this weekend, a 48.941. So the question is, can he keep it all the way till 0 now?
Let's see. Now, Jordan Pepper, how much has the celebrations from a previous weekend affected Jordan Pepper? Because he is like a thing possessed today. In Sector 2, he's gone quicker than anyone all over again. The 48.941 could even be bettered here. So as he heads towards breaking the timing beam now, it's a 48.905. It's a further 3.5 hundredths quicker, Brian. He is on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And he looked like a man motivated when I spoke to him earlier on today. We've already mentioned it. He, Mirko Bortolotti, Luca Engstler won at Spa last weekend and are on the crest of a wave. And along with GRT Grass, who have been looking for this one for some time as well. And as you already say, when you win something as big as that, it can really take the monkey off your back. And I would remind you, last year, Nicky Team, should I say, won the Spa 24-hour race. The following week, he came here and won around the streets of Nuremberg. So, is Jordan Pepper going to emulate exactly what Nicky Team did last year?
It's possible.
Yes, he's certainly showing all the signs for it, isn't he? The other person I would just mention is Thierry Vermeulen, who won the Gold Cup for Verstappen Racing, Verstappen.com, last week at Spa 24. So another one who is very much on the crest of the wave, but at the moment is down in 20th place in the Ferrari. The fastest of the Ferraris is Jack Aitken. He's in 11th. We saw Ben Green earlier on. He is in 16th place. But Jordan Pepper is the one they're all trying to catch. He's the only driver at all since we turned a wheel here at the Norisring who's got it into the 48s.
We're riding on board with Lucas Howe with a splitter cam now. Absolutely love that shot. So Lucas Howe, who's languishing, dare I say it, the points leader languishing down there in P16 in this pre-practice session, of which there are only 8 minutes remaining. Breaks the timing beam now. Timo Glock, personal bests in Sector 1 and Sector 2, but we stay with Lucas Howe. So Glock has now gone 8th fastest, which is the best we've seen from the McLaren of Timo Glock, I would suggest, so far today. We stay on board with Lucas Howe, and this splitter cam coming up behind Maro Engel, I think it is, as he goes through. Lucas Howe also on an improvement strategy here. Everyone is getting the get-go right now with just under 8 minutes remaining in this free practice session. Staying on board, love these shots, absolutely brilliant.
Lucas Howe has had a real air of confidence about him this year, and it's been borne out by the fact that he's won 2 of the 6 races we've had this season so far. He's got personal best in Sector 1, personal best in Sector 2. It takes him up to 13th, so 3 personal bests, but he's not into the 48s yet. That lap from Jordan Pepper really was exceptional. He's the only one into the 48 still. His teammate Luca Engstler in the number 19 car. So Pepper has gone quicker again in Sector 1. So Pepper really showing what he's worth. Engstler currently in 5th place, so nothing too spectacular in Sector 1. About 4/10 slower than Jordan Pepper was in the same sector on the previous lap. Pepper hasn't done anything too spectacular in Sector 2. He's certainly going to stay at the top here. Is he going to improve on it? 48.898. No. So not an improvement, but you get the feeling that he's just telling everybody what he's capable of, isn't he?
Yes, but all of a sudden in the closing stages of this, of course, traffic is going to play a part now, as we can see Marco Wittmann has done personal best in Sector 1 and Sector 2, and then a below par Sector 3 for him. It's very busy out there on track right now, Brian. And that means, with the exception, I believe, of just one car, and that is Maro Engel, I think, every car is out on track.
Yes, it's certainly very busy out there at the moment. So finding a bit of space. This is the last 6 minutes of free practice, and then we are into qualifying. So if you've got anything you need to find out, now is the time to do it. Rene Rast, the personal best in Sector 1, not so in Sector 2. And now Maro Engel says, okay, let's have 24 cars on track. So this is a simulation of what it's going to be like during the race, because every car is now on track. There is Rene Rast in the number 33 car, riding on board with Thomas Briding as well. He hasn't improved either, but I love it. As he goes past our camera, the whole thing shakes as the air sucks the camera around. Out along to the pit straight we come.
Steady on.
Thomas Bryning, 49.172. So not his quickest, but certainly consistently fast laps.
If you can try and find some space out there on the track, which is a big, big ask. Jules Gounon dump into the pits. No one is putting purple sectorus up at the moment. Many are doing greens, which is personal best. No one's doing overall best. So Lucas Auer then, who we ride on board with right now, personal best sector 1, sector 2 and sector 3. He goes to P7, just behind Timo Glock, who is 6th fastest. Luca Engstler stays 8th. It's Jordan Pepper, and he's 48.857. Doesn't look like it's being threatened by anyone at the moment.
Well, Pepper's now into the pit, so is he done and dusted?
Yes.
I don't think he's going to be coming out again. Also in, Maurice Schering, Thomas Pryning, already mentioned Jules Gounon, so 4 cars peeling off into the pit. They probably decide, if I want the traffic jam like this, I'll drive around the M25. Thank you very much. Right, let's have a replay here. This is Luca Engstler. How close to the wall is he going to get? The answer is close enough to maybe give the paintwork a little bit of a scrape. We call that a trophy if you manage to scrape the paintwork and keep the thing in one piece.
Still no one has sent their door mirror for a flying through the air.
Oh, now you've said it.
No, no, ain't gonna happen. So now, who was it at the end of FP1 that really, really surprised us by putting in a lap, which was awesome? Well, just saying, keep your eyes on some of these drivers. This is not over yet. We've got 3 3/4 minutes remaining.
Oh, Jules Gounon coming back out.
Wow, wow, wow.
Meanwhile, Thierry Vermeulen
Yes.
with a purple in sector 2. So Gilles Magnus up to 2nd in the Aston Martin, 49.018. Great stuff for the come to you Aston Martin, and Nicola Bart up to 6th place as well. So great stuff from the Aston Martin. Both of them suddenly finding some real pace. We said the driver to keep an eye on. He stole the headlines at the end of FP1. That was Max Powell. At the moment, he's in 14th place. He's not really improving at the moment, but he's already shown what he's capable of. But Gilles Magnus up into 2nd. Nicola Bart into 6th place. Suddenly, the Aston Martins have come alive. Thierry Vermeulen up there as well. Arjun Maini, who was briefly fastest, is 5th in the Mustang. Of course, Thomas Pryning just ahead of him. So the Norisring turning the form book upside down. This is what we like to see.
It never fails to deliver in terms of drama, even in a free practice session. We absolutely love it. I regret to say there's only 2.5 minutes remaining, but a lot can happen in the space of 2.5 minutes as we ride on board right now with Maro Engel. Maro is much further down the order than he would like to be, I'm sure of that, and he's going to do everything he can to propel himself up from that current P23 position in this free practice session that is led by Jordan Pepper. Then it's Magnus, Vermeulen, and then it is Pryning, Maini and Burt.
So once again, Maro Engel back out onto the Zeppelinstrasse. It is foot flat to the floor. There is actually a slight corner in this. There it is there before.
It's a kink.
Braking, a kink.
You know all about that. It's, well, a bend. It's not quite a full bend.
Oh, don't talk to me about kinks. Into turn 4, in first gear, and around he comes. They go down to about 60 kilometers an hour into turn 4, and then it's his full tilt.
Jack Aitken, he did a better than anyone through sector 2. He's now gone 5th fastest. Even with 1.5 minutes left, this ain't all over yet until the rotund lady sings. She's queued up behind.
Yeah, that's no way to talk about yourself. So Jordan Pepper's the one they're aiming for in the 48. Now, one of the things I would say, I'm going to be slightly cynical here, and that is we often see BOP changed overnight from Fridays to Saturdays. It's not always a good idea to show your hand too soon, and there may be that in the back of the mind of some of these drivers. Maybe not. Maybe I'm being cynical here.
Maybe you are.
But Gilles Magnus still staying in that second place. But we have seen it on most weekends where there have been changes from Friday to Saturday. But Jordan Pepper in the Lamborghini doesn't seem to be too worried about that with that 48. We're into the last pretty well 30 seconds of this session. That's Jules Gounon just taking a different line to Fabio Scherro, who's just behind him.
I saw a car up against the wall on the exit of that final turn. I'm sure I did.
Yeah, yellow in turn 3. So who is that? Well spotted. I believe that's Tom Callender, who we might have lost. I think the 84 car.
So it was turn 3, not that turn that I was thinking of, but I know I saw a car up against the wall.
Oh, that's very, there
it is.
So it looks like, and it looked like there's too much damage there, but that is certainly going to, well, fortunately the session is over
the session
anyway.
done, isn't it? No one's going to improve now, and we've got a red flag.
So any times will not count. Let's see what happened here. Did he make contact to the back end?
By
Bang,
goodness,
yes.
he did.
Yeah, that wasn't a kiss, that was a snock, wasn't it? So into the wall goes the 84 car.
That's probably broken a track control arm or something, hasn't it?
Like
because
that.
the impact was so great, but that brings the session to a premature end, but only by a few seconds, to be honest. You've lost none of the action.
And this time, Jordan Pepper gets to keep the fastest time. Max Powell, who was quickest in session 1. Well, he gave it a try, didn't he? Up to 5th place, 0.231 back from the fastest time.
Pushing, good job.
I had a big crash.
Copy. You okay? Happened?
I had to go offline because Jules did a mistake, and then I got the snap on the tree.
Okay, copy.
Takes a big man to hold your hand up, Brian, and say, I got it wrong.
Well,
and
yeah, I mean, I would say Tom Callender, he is a humble guy. He's the youngest driver to have ever raced in DTM. He's still in the educational system, and I don't think is he driving on the road yet? I'm not even sure he's even driving on the road. He's a very impressive driver. He was in Formula 4 a couple of years ago, and here he was in GT Masters last year, won the GT Masters Championship on debut.
yes.
And now
That's
into
no
DTM.
mean feat in itself.
It really isn't. One of the toughest GT championships. And into DTM, I would say it's been a steep learning curve for him, but it was always going to be, really. Hugely talented, lovely guy, very likeable, humble. He has kind of realistic aspirations, I think would say. Mm-hmm. He was 16th in this session, so not disgraceful at all. The quickest of all was Jordan Pepper at 48.857, the only car into the 48 so far this week. Gilles Magnus, how good was that in second, ahead of Terry Vermeulen. Thomas Preining, always there in 4th place. Quickest from FP1 was 5th in this session, Max Powell. Jack Aitken, another one who's always there. Great showing from the Mustang, Arjun Maini in 7th, ahead of Nicola Bart. Ricardo Feller in the lone Audi in 9th, ahead of winner from last year, Nicky Team in 10th place for AB Sportsline. In 11th place, Rene Rast, another of last year's winners, ahead of defending champion Mirko Bortolotti. Timo Glock, he'll be reasonably happy with 13th, ahead of championship leader Lucas Auer. Luca Engsler in 15th, ahead of Tom Callender, who we saw against the wall. Maro Engel, Ayan Chen-Gun, and Jules Gounon rounding out the next places. And then in 20th, Bender, ahead of Marco Wittmann. Another difficult day for Marco, potentially, ahead of Fabio Scherro. Maurice Schuring and Ben Green having a fairly quiet session, but not exactly a long way off, about half a second. Ladies and gentlemen, half a second between the fastest and the slowest. That is outrageous. That is insanely close. So there is a nice slow-mo of the Emil Frey Racing Thierry Vermeulen in that 3rd place. Gilles Magnus in the Come To You Aston Martin. This track really shows the talent, and what a talented driver he is. 007, Gilles Magnus in that 2nd place. But the man who came so close in FP1, I think he has nailed his colours firmly to the mast. Jordan Pepper for TGI Team Lamborghini by GRT. And I will say that once again, 0.544 seconds is the difference between the absolute fastest and the absolute slowest. Yes, this is the shortest track of the year, but how insanely close is that? Anyone who thinks that any of these drivers that you have seen today are guaranteed a pole position, you are very much mistaken, because this is all very, very much to play for. One little mistake, one setup change, right or wrong, and it could move you from the very front to the very back, or indeed from the very back to the very front. As we look across the Dutzendijk Lake, I have to tell you that we're going to be back tomorrow morning at 9:15 local time. We're going to be on air at 9:10. It will be for a unique qualifying session in two groups, qualifying for the first of two races this weekend, race 7 of the season. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 9:15. See you then. Bye-bye.